Thank you, Catherine. So my job at the Nature Conservancy is to work with our programs and farmers around the world to promote the adoption of regenerative agriculture and to help transition to a regenerative food system. Regenerative agriculture is really about promoting practices both on a field and in a landscape that help reduce climate change by sequestering carbon or avoiding greenhouse gas emissions, help protect water quality and preserve water resources, as well as encourage and restore habitat to promote biodiversity. The thing about regenerative agriculture, though, is it's not something that you need a satellite and a combine and sophisticated technology to practice. Those things can help, but it's also the kind of thing that you can do at home. Some regenerative agriculture practices are in fact as old as agriculture, things like crop rotation. So for example, right here in this garden, I've got some garlic here that I planted in the fall. This garlic will be harvested in a few months, and when I take that out, it'll be replaced by tomatoes. That's the principle of crop rotation. That can help cut disease and pest cycles. It can help add diversity, both for biodiversity and for your food production itself. Another example of a regenerative agriculture practice is cover cropping. This is when, after the crop is harvested, you plant another crop, not necessarily with the intent of harvesting it and consuming it, but really as a means of protecting the soil and taking more carbon out of the atmosphere and putting it into the soil. Both the garlic as well as this broccoli here, both of these are planted in the fall, and while I will harvest them, they also serve that cover crop function. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to share with you a dish that I think kind of helps encapsulate all of those ideas and actually include some products from my own garden. So I'm going to cook a dish for you today called kisir, which is a grain-based salad that's quite common in Turkey. I learned it from my mother-in-law who lives in Turkey, and it really makes me think of that statement by Kashan earlier that there's no culture without agriculture. And I think that's quite important because food really is a great pathway to understanding not only the diverse cultures of the world, but also the diverse ecosystem. So I'm going to cook this dish, which highlights, it's based on bulgar, which is actually a parboiled whole wheat berry that's cracked. Bulgur is important because it's not only is it a whole grain, so that means it brings fiber and it brings a lot of nutrients that you wouldn't get in a processed grain, but it also is a really great base for all of these herbs and vegetables I'm going to add. So this is parsley I harvested from my garden. I've actually got some parsley here that I planted in a seed and transplanted into this takeaway container just a few days ago. This is something that could actually grow on my windowsill, it could grow on my fire escape, my balcony, it could grow really anywhere in the house. So this type of producing your own herbs, producing your own food is something really everyone can do, and it's a great way to kind of connect with nature and to make your diet more healthy. So this dish features a lot of fresh ingredients, and then it comes together with some really interesting sauces and some herbs and spices. What's really exciting is actually in my garden right now here in Washington, D.C., I've got pretty much all these plants growing. Most of them aren't ready yet because it's still the spring, but these are the kind of things that almost anyone can grow at home. These green onions, I'm going to teach you a little bit of a trick here, which is actually, I'm going to put these here in water, and if I wait, in probably 2 weeks, I'll be able to harvest these green onions again. Okay, so I'm going to start preparing this dish now. Also, diversifying your diet and kind of exploring the diets and cuisines of other places is a fantastic way to actually help the food system. I mean, imagine quinoa, for example. Quinoa was really something most people in the US hadn't heard of just 10 years ago. Pretty much everyone knows what it is now, and that's kind of created a market for a really important traditional staple grain in the Andes. So by diversifying your diet, you can not only improve your health, you can discover new tastes and new sensations like that, but you can also help create markets for crops that can be really agronomically and culturally important in different parts of the world. I'm going to add some olive oil. This here is a mix of tomato paste and pepper paste. Chili pepper, just to give it a bit of heat. And this is sumac. It's got this sort of like, I call it like a lemony, tangy flavor mixed with a bit of barbecue. And the last thing to add to this is what they call eksisi, which is basically a pomegranate molasses. So transitioning to a regenerative food system requires thinking about more than just agriculture. It also requires thinking about the food that we eat. One of the most important things that everyone can do is becoming a more informed food consumer, trying to understand where your food is coming from.